Yeah,
Hello.
hello.
Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so James Lindsay, I am a head coach of the twos for Belsize Park. I've been coaching for 10 years and I work in London in the city in finance.
Okay.
That's what I do.
So my first question is, why is rugby such a popular sport in England and
Yeah,
in the whole world?
I think many reasons. Rugby is a collective sport. It's very much about people and friends and enjoying it, and a very physical sport. So it's a way of releasing a lot of stress and annoyance. But I think rugby is probably one of the more social sports in the UK. So it's very about your friends, playing with your friends, like fighting to win a game, etc. But I'd also say compared to other sports, it's very respectful. So the difference being that other sports, it's very about being respectful to referees. It teaches you values in rugby, which is really important. Like what is important as you as a person is really important. So generally, it's a sport that's easy accessible. It's fun. It's physical, and it's a way of learning about life in general. I think it's really important. So respect for the referees, respect for each other, and enjoying it. Yeah, so it's very important.
Yeah. Do you think that rugby is more dynamic game than football?
I think they're very, very different. I think football is very about fitness. It's got a lot of obviously different coordination. It's to do with the ball, it's to do with sort of feet. But I think the main difference is the physicality. It's very, very hard on the body, and it's a mental sport where you either tackle someone or you don't. You run hard or you run slow. So it's much more in the head in terms of the physical brutality of the sport. It's a very aggressive sport.
Yeah.
But you feel at the end of it very happy. I'd also say it's a very social sport after the game. So it's a bit different in a lot of ways. But both are very good for a lot of people.
Definitely. So my next question is it dangerous for health?
I think every sport in some ways is dangerous for health for different ways. I'd say where it's very hard for rugby is the head injuries, because there's no protection for your head, which is very important these days with concussions. I think there's a lot being done by the rules, the regulations about protecting safety of players, because you can have quite nasty injuries, and there's a lot working on to make sure that rugby historically has been very, it's a very social game, so not everyone is as strong and big, and the impacts are very low and slow. But more recently, you're seeing very big physical contacts and very high impact injuries, and therefore it's improving from a safety perspective. But I would say football is a lower bar for injuries, where guys will play through injuries, they'll break their fingers, they'll hurt their knees, and they'll play on. So it is a very physical sport, and it does take a very sort of mentality to keep hurting yourself from tackles and keep going.
Yeah, interesting. My next question is, what is difficult about your work as a coach?
I think, as with any sport, it's the biggest bit is managing players and their perspective on how they are playing, and making sure that they are encouraged to keep playing. Like dropping players or taking people out of the team is very hard to see, because it's never nice to see someone disappointed or upset about being dropped. So it's about making sure you have a good relationship with your players, you explain to them what they can do better. There's always difficult characters in any sport, so you've got to manage that. But I think it's making sure people understand that there's progression to be made, they're valued as the club, and they still enjoy the game. I think it's really important to enjoy the game and realise it's not the end of the world. We're playing rugby, as a social amateur sport. It's about the part after the game. It's not just the game itself. So I think it's hard to make sure people not get upset and head down and be disappointed with what they're doing. So that's the hardest part, is trying to keep people's morale up, which is always difficult.
So you do make friends with your players of your team?
I think my best friends are through the rugby club. I had a bad injury 10 years ago, and the club kept me on, and I've made all my friends through the club in London. And I think the one thing I'd say about rugby is it's very inclusive in nature. I think it's really important that people moving to a new country or a new city, like Dimit, for example, who's behind the camera, it's a way of immediately being accepted into a culture of people and actually making friends for life. And it's probably the same with other sports, but in particular in rugby, it's very much a family, and it's a great way of meeting people, and it doesn't matter how good or bad you are, you can still play rugby.
It's very important.
Yeah.
How you can describe the unique form of
Belsize.
Belsize, of your team, of your after playing?
I think Belsize is very unique, and it's shown how we've done so well in growing the club. Is, rugby, you need space, you need grass, you need green, you need fields, and living in central London, there's not much. So I think what we're very unique is we play on a very small pitch in training. We've got a pitch in Regent's Park, but I think what's important is, it's a way of accessing rugby in a big city. I think that what makes us really unique is we've got 5 clubs. We've got a lot of different standards. We've got people that have just picked up rugby for the first time to people that have played rugby for 30 years at a very high level. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very unique nature is that we accept everybody, and it's playing very central, and it's a very very fun club to be part of. And that's what it's been born of. I joined 10 years ago. We had 2 teams. We now have 5 teams. The ones have gone up 6 leagues, and a lot of that's been built on friendships. And what's very unique is we have a lot of people coming from abroad who have been recommended to join. We have an Australian group, French group. They all come and join us because it's central rugby, and it's just what they want to do. So it's a very unique sort of club. It's not very local. Everyone's different. Everyone's from everywhere. We have Russians. We have all these different people coming to play for one club, which is great.
Okay. Have you been playing rugby when you was a child?
I used to live in England before moving to Scotland, so I played football in England, and then I played rugby in Scotland from the age of 12. I played for 10 years. I loved it. It was a big change from football, a big change in terms of physicality. But I only played till I was 24, as I say, when I had a bad injury playing for Belsize. Mm-hmm. And then I couldn't play sports again. So, not as long as others, but, no one's seen me play, so they can't say I'm bad or good. It's just, the way it is. So
that's great. And my last question for today is, what do you think is the reason for the love of sports among all British people?
Of rugby or general sports?
General sport.
I think it's the competitive nature of people generally. I don't know if it's an English thing, but we're very competitive people, and I think the schools in particular, when you're growing up, you're very sporty. You're always playing sports. It's all about sports. As it is from the very young age, you're sports. And I think we're seeing it now with both men and women's rugby and men and women's sports. Is that the competitive nature of it is a very enjoyable experience, and then also making friends and having a social part to your life. It very revolves around sport. Even if you're not playing sports, you go to the bar to watch.
It's like a community.
Other people. Yeah, you go to watch other people play sports. You go to the Six Nations to watch people play sports, and most of the crowd don't play sports, but it's there about a collegiate sort of bringing everyone together, and I think that's really important.
Six Nations is
the rugby.
A league.
Six Nations is rugby between France, Italy, England, Wales, Scotland, and I've forgotten the other one. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's Six Nations. England, Scotland, Ireland, obviously. Sorry.
Yeah.
And it's about bringing nations together to watch sport and watch their players play. So
what's happened outside?
There's something cheering or something. So my wife doesn't play sports, but she goes to watch Six Nations because it's a sport to watch and bring people together. So it's good.
It's unite.
Is that okay?
All people. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck. Cheers.
Thank you.
No, don't worry about it.
Thank you.